everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today on this day, I have with me a gentleman by the name of Dr. Craig Smith. He is an author, entrepreneur, investment consultant, servant in his community, so much more. And I am so looking forward to hearing about all the wonderful work that he is doing. But first and foremost, Dr. Craig, as I always do, I take a quick moment to pause, say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once you give it, you cannot get it back. So I appreciate you carving out this space in your day to chat with me. And with that, sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, you're doing so much, so I had to pick somewhere to start, and I'll start with the real estate thing. You have a company called C. Smith Funding, and I think this is very important because especially within the Black community for generations, we've heard about real estate, but it's always been this elusive kind of stream of income for us. So I guess, how did you get involved with real estate and how did you get going on this process?
Yeah, that's interesting because what you just said is true. And it's true for so many of us. And it's just like, yeah, real estate, I'm gonna buy me a house one day, and it just never ends up happening, right? I guess before we got started, I mentioned a couple of things about my upbringing. We lived in public housing, right there. My parents never owned a house. So when you think about the reality of the matter, it's just like, is that realistic for me? Can I have that? You go to school, you get exposed to different people, and then you learn how to learn, and you learn how to watch people. And that's what I ended up doing. And it's interesting because my prayer to God is always, God, give me favor with people. Let's just give me favor with people. I don't need money. Just keep me and put me on the hearts of the mind of your people. And God always will drop a person in my pathway that give me something that stings enough to shift me. And one of my good friends, business partner, we've known each other forever and a day, had a conversation with me one day, like, man, listen, you pay $1,800 in rent. I mean, I love your apartment. Luxurious, it's beautiful, it's all the things you need. But do the math. You've been here for 2 years. Look at how much you have spent making somebody else rich and richer. I did the math. I'm like, whoa. There's a house around the corner for me for $90,000. You've already put out into somebody else's empire $40,000.
There you go.
Simple math. I got myself together. I started looking around. I did the research because a part of that common misconception is that we can't have it, it's not attainable. Wasn't taught how to value credit at all. So you had to fix the credit piece. But I ended up finding this program that I didn't even believe it was just too good to be true. And then it ended up being true. In the house I'm in right now, which I pulled equity off of twice, and still have about $70,000 worth of equity in this house. We'll talk about equity and how to leverage equity and dot. But this particular house, I went through a program called the NACA program, which is a national program, NACA.com. No down payment, no closing costs, which there are closing costs, but not in what they traditionally would be. And it wasn't based off your credit score. And at the time I began this process, my credit probably was in the 600-ish. I didn't really know I didn't know nothing about credit. Gotcha. I wasn't raised to know anything about credit other than you get a credit card, you tear the credit card up for a holiday, you just don't pay it, and they call, the bill collectors call, and mom, they want, I'm not here. My mom says she's not here. I was taught the wrong way how to have a relationship with credit. So I pride myself now in teaching people the whole, like, how to have a real relationship with credit. Because once you have this relationship with credit and you spend time with your credit and your credit report, you position yourself to being able to leverage the credit. And that's like the second and third level of this whole credit piece. All right, I secured the bag. Now, how do I leverage the bag? But even before securing the bag, how do I position myself to be able to go after other people's money? And then once I secure other people's money, AKA securing the bag, and I teach all this, you guys, visit me online. Now, how do you leverage that? And that's how I ended up getting into real estate. I purchased this house, and I was a little upset because I was paying $1,800 a month in rent easily. Thank God I was blessed. One thing you didn't mention in the brief bio is that I'm a college administrator. So I'm in higher
Okay.
education. I work in higher
Okay.
ed. That's my primary source of income. All of the other subsequent things are the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 10
Gotcha.
streams of income so that you really can experience financial freedom. But that primary source of income gives me a steady paycheck. It gives me my retirement plan. It gives me money. It gives me a life insurance policy that I'm paying pennies on the dollar for. That's a nice insurance policy. And it gives me that medical coverage. And all
Gotcha.
of my jobs, thank God, have positioned me. It's been my sandbox to do my other stuff.
Okay.
So it never really has been work for me. So every time I left a job, I'm like, oh, that job owes me nothing because I was able to get everything plus some more out of the job, which is why I don't mind working for somebody because technically that somebody is working for me.
Gotcha.
Purchased this house 2011, and even in purchasing the house, I cut my mortgage was like $900, and I had all this space that I could rent. Didn't really want to live with nobody, but I ended up allowing my dad to come. And my dad did, oh, I'm gonna be here for 6 months. Fast forward 10 years later. So again, this house don't owe me anything. It really positioned me, my family to do stuff and to be a family. And my house became Big Mama's house that everyone came in for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And all right, let's just do it at Craig's house. And they gave my dad a greater sense of purpose because he was such family oriented, and it kept him out of the streets.
Gotcha.
Nonetheless, but yeah, I took this property. I was here for a couple of years, and I'm still trying to figure out, well, how do people, I don't see the tax break and the benefits. Like, I'm not getting a big income tax return. I had to learn how to leverage this investment. And then it ended up being an equity. The program, NACA, kind of put a dent on me being able to pull equity out of the house. So I actually had to refinance out of the NACA loan to be able to grab the equity out of the property. And that's what I ended up doing. I refinanced out of the NACA loan. My interest rate went up probably by a point and probably by like $50. But now I literally pulled out $45,000, which was my investment nest egg. So I'm saving money. My dad's home health care aide. We had an interesting situation with that. And I literally was saving the money because my dad wasn't supposed to stay here for 10 years. So I was putting money aside. So whenever he decided he wanted to leave and do his own thing, here you go.
Gotcha.
That never happened. So I realized, oh, he ain't going nowhere. I took that money, added it to the $40,000+, and that's when I started making some moves. I then started looking at a few people that I knew who I could validate their lifestyle, and the common thread in all of their financial freedom was real estate. So I got a little closer, and I started dissecting what they were doing. Yeah, no, that don't sound right. That don't make sense. And started process mapping, and then identified about 3 or 4 different lanes within that whole real estate umbrella. I didn't want to be the realtor. I didn't want to sell a house. I didn't want that 3 to 6%. I wanted the 97 to 94%. I mean, 97%. I wanted to be on the other side of the table. Craig, how do you position yourself to be on the other side of the table to walk away with a larger bag? And that's where I began doing my study. Once I did it a couple times, and shout out to Big Bentley niche. Used to be Maserati niche, but she's driving a Bentley now. One of my good friends, she called me because I would call her. She did the credit repair, and I would ask many questions, and I would watch her on her Instagram lives. And this one day she was dropping gems, and I called and said, "You hungry?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "What you want to eat?" I went and took her lunch, and I took my laptop with me, and I just sat there, and I was earshot away from her coaching conversations with her and everything she was telling them to do. And I walked away with about $100,000 of other people's money. I was like, wait, shut up. Is this easy? And I just started listening, watching, researching, doing a deeper dive. And then I ended up putting all the stuff in a book. And that's where that Streams to Success 5 passive income streams, book ended up coming from. I put it into a book. I called her one day. She was like, look, see, don't call me no more, asking me no more questions about nothing. Scared money don't make no money. That person, that sting, it cut deep. I hung up on her. She hurt my feelings a little bit. And I got on the computer and I ended up buying a house. I put in an offer for this house in Southwest Philadelphia for $20,000. I purchased it sight unseen. It pretty much was a shell based off of the pictures. Purchased it, they accepted the offer, no problem. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had this house. I knew I had about $60,000. Then I got that other $100,000 of, revolving lines of credit, business credit cards, I purchased a house, and thank God I ended up landing on my feet. I put about $38,000. I purchased it cash. I dropped about $38,000 cash money into the property. I was about $58,000 in. That sucker appraised for $135,000. Now, if you know anything about pulling money out, I owned the house free and clear. So it was 100% equity in the house. Now, this is where my maturity in real estate kind of has shifted me.
Okay.
I really don't want to force a mortgage no more. I don't want debt. So I have a house in Chester that I paid $13,000 for. I done put about $70,000 into it. Appraisal was estimating coming in at 160, 165. I own it free and clear outside of the personal debt I've acquired, putting it on credit cards, my Home Depot card, and things of that sort. I can pull that money out and walk away with at least $120,000 that can position me to clean up debt and do some other things. Or I can just sell the properties. I decided not to sell them. But going back to that other experience, I was able to pull $80,000 of equity off of that house.
There you go.
I teach a class where I really give the breakdown about how I did what I did, purchased it, how I positioned myself to get the 20,000 and had a 38 to drop into it. And then once I had 100% equity in it, what I did with that $80,000, I paid myself. I paid my tithes. I tied to myself. I put some money aside for my education and my learning. So I put about $5,000 into me taking courses and buying people's products and materials so I can enhance my skill set.
Gotcha.
I don't mind investing in other people's stuff because what I'm going to end up doing is taking what I learned and then teaching it, and I get my money back on the back end. Okay. And then the other thing I ended up doing with that money, I paid somebody to teach me how to become a finance broker. That young lady who did the deal for me and got me that 80, when I looked at that closing sheet and saw how much she made and calculated how much time we actually spent and how many times I saw her in person, says, how much would you charge me to teach me to do what you just did? Because you're in school for science. This don't have any, you don't need a degree to do this. And she gave me a number. I did a crash course, and C. Smith funding was birthed out of that. So I started funding my own deals, and I cut out the middleman and was able to save on an interest that me, finding a hard money lender would actually charge me for, putting the deal together and finding me the funding to purchase and renovate the projects. So I made my money back the first deal I did because I saved $5,000 by doing it myself. And then I've been able to make money, financing other people's deals. It's frustrating and time consuming. It's money that can be made. I just don't like to do it. And I don't like to do stuff that I don't like to do. And
I ain't mad at you.
Work and all of that. I'm like, it's good money. I mean, in one deal I made what I make at the college, but I like the work that I do at the college.
Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, I'll work with certain people, and I'm not, if you know me and I do it, referral based situation, call me, we'll talk. And if I think it's something that won't be a painstaking for me to get done, I'll do it. Other than that, I'm just gonna keep doing my own deal. Take that knowledge for self and just keep doing my own deals and keep acquiring these properties and just repeating the cycle over and over again. So that's how I got into it. But I also positioned myself to become a lender. And I was doing transactional lending for people that I was coaching who had like a gap and they just needed $20,000 more. And it's like, oh, okay. There's PUA money and PPP money out there.
Yeah.
So, if this don't work, you need to apply for that money and give me my situation back. When I did that bank run, I ended up with a $20,000 loan. And I don't like loans because once you pay them off, well, first and foremost, the fee is going to be what the fee is going to be. Whether you got the 20,000 sitting in your account or you utilize all the 20,000, it's going to be $379 a month. With revolving lines of credit, you only pay interest on the money that you use, and when you pay it back, it goes back into the pot that you now have access. So it's revolving. I said, I don't like loans. Come on, revolving.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna leverage you, position myself, pay it back, and then I'm just gonna keep repeating the cycle.
Okay.
So I took 20, lent it to somebody, that $20,000. I said, listen, can you push back the due date for this? How far back can you push it? I could push it back 3 months. Okay. Your contract will be for 45 days.
Okay.
How much is it going to be after that 90 days? $600 payment, 45 days on that after 2 months, $600. And then that way I was safeguarding myself so that they weren't able to pay. That loan wasn't going to be on me. It will now be on them.
Okay.
Thank God they actually was able to pay, and I was able to make my money back off that situation. And it was good. I was like, oh, wow, this is how. So I'm really was just trying on all of these different hats during COVID and making money. I made so much money.
COVID has been a blessing, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I dumped it all into one of my projects and then realized that all the work that was done wrong. So I wasted all this free money, not free, unanticipated income is what I call it.
Okay.
I wasn't anticipating it. It just this fall. I'm waiting for some more unanticipated income so y'all can just send it on down. But it was unanticipated income that I dumped into that project when I realized things just were done incorrectly. Safety first. I wouldn't be able to sleep knowing that people perished in a fire because the electrical wasn't done correctly. And I didn't want to rip open the walls because I had already put the sheetrock up and painted. Put baseboards down. No, that's just go in where we have to. That killed me. I was, oh no, we really opening these walls up. So I had to redo everything all over again. But God, I still don't owe any debt attached to the house directly. It's indirect debt.
Okay.
So I'm still free and clear. I don't have a mortgage, and it'll be 100% positive cash flow once I begin renting these rooms out by way of that transitional living project. So, I mean, I learned a lot, and I really teach and I coach from my experiences. Even now, going through this transitional living process, I'm not teaching a class. I got my first check in hand. And once I got my check in hand, I've gone through the process. I know the process works. I know the power players. I know what you need to do. I know the paperwork. Now I'll teach people how to do it. And I'm just going to charge them. I was doing all this stuff for free, believe it or not. And then when I started looking at people and saying these folk ain't got a credential, nor did they have integrity, and people were excited about their lifestyle. And that's what I learned about that whole lifestyle marketing piece. It's like, okay, I went from rag to riches in 3 days. That's new money. I don't want new money. I want old money and long money. I want this money to play the long game, because even after I'm just done hustling, because I'm really at a point now where I don't want to do 50 million things. I just want to be a one horse pony show?
Yeah, one pony.
How'd I go? That I don't want to do 50 million things. And I learned.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I know, right? My mom
it sounds good. It sounds good.
Shut up. You'll be bored to death.
It sounds good. It sounds good. Let me ask you a question real quick. Because I think some people don't understand, especially in our community. What's the difference when it comes to real estate? What's the difference between going to like a Bank of America or Wells Fargo, or seeking out somebody like you? I mean, what's the difference?
Yep. So you have traditional lending, which is Bank of America, and those are tiered banks. So those international brands, Bank of America, you can go anywhere and find a Bank of America. Those are tier 1 banks. Even if I'm going to traditional banks for products, I actually play at the tier 3 banks. And those typically are the credit unions and those banks that you are kind of like riding through a neighborhood and like, well, that's a bank? Like, what's that? No, those are the ones you want to connect with, because it's going to be easier for you to secure funding through them. They're going to be a lot more lenient with their requirements,
Okay.
because they're looking to establish their presence in the community and they want to build these banking relationships. So I always play at that tier 3 level, and I might bump up to a tier 2, but
Gotcha.
typically tier 3 all the way, period. With traditional banking, they normally don't like to do the business stuff. But if they do, everything shows up on your personal credit report. You go hard money private lending is strictly investment, is strictly going to be done in an LLC, and you're the personal guarantor, but it doesn't appear on your personal credit report. So it never affects your debt to income ratio. My debt to income ratio will be uber skewed if all of the stuff I got over here in this business showed up to my 1750 Social Security number. And here I go with a good credit score and make good money and need a co-signer for an apartment. No, you're not going to do that. So that it positions you, you're going to pay more in interest, but it positions you to make more immediate move. It don't typically take 45 to 60 days to close as it does with the traditional banking system, because of all of the legalities and the logistics you have to go through to actually get to the point to actually close. The process is much quicker. You will pay a little more in interest, but you're free to do what you want to do with the money. Now, what a lot of people don't know, which is why you have to have some money to get some money to make some money.
Gotcha.
We want to see $20,000-$25,000 in liquid assets, because you need to be able to pay the first 3 months of this hard money loan. You need to be able to get at least phase 1 of the project started. These are reimbursement loans. The days of, we just gonna give you $100,000 and you can just do whatever you want with it with no accountability are long gone. Folk way ahead of us ruined that opportunity. So now it's reimbursement. So I gotta say, if I'm gonna do this, if the scope of work says this, once phase 1 is complete, I reach out to them. Hey, I need an inspection. They'll come and say, okay, you put a new roof on there. Okay, you did the cement. Okay, you did siding. And then they'll cut the check and reimburse me for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I buffer the numbers, so I get a little nest egg throughout the situation. But now I use this money to do the next part of the project and the next part of the project. And that's kind of how it works.
Gotcha.
The challenge, I just got a call from my cousin, like, hey, do you know any contractors in Baltimore? A friend of mine had a contract in there. It ain't do nothing in 8 months, and the electric was stolen twice. And I said, first of all, why were they in there for 8 months? Don't answer that question. Because the owner didn't live in Baltimore. They heard about Baltimore, you can get the properties for dirt cheap. Oh, okay, but you don't have access to the property. You need to be actively involved in your real estate investment. Otherwise, you're a silent partner, and your loud partner is for somebody got to be there for accountability. Otherwise, your project is just going to kind of get pushed to the back burner, or you're just going to get piss poor work done. And it's going to cost you money. I learned that lesson the hard way. Hence me having to fix the house up twice, because I work full time and I was doing 50 other things, and I was just taking FaceTime pictures as for face value. Like, oh, okay, it looks, oh, yeah, it's good. But they didn't show me that the plumbing wasn't connected to nothing. It was just standing, it was sitting there looking like it was rough, but it wasn't connected to anything. Excuse me. So, yeah, all this gray hair, these strands of gray, when you start moving it out, it came from this COVID real estate investing stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, in certain cities, because you mentioned Baltimore, and I had been through there sometime, certain cities are really prime for reselling real estate investments, or something like Detroit was years ago, or whatever. So you have a prime market there in Philadelphia?
We had. Is pretty much, I mean, there's still a few pockets. So for example, North Philly, Brewery Town was crazy market. Folks saw where it was positioned, a stone throw away from the park, the parkway, the drive, the Schuylkill River, Center City. Oh, we 5 minutes away. These houses are in deplorable condition. We can get them for dirt cheap. We can buy a whole lot of them, fix them up, and now we change the property value. Let's push everybody out. Gentrification happens. So we've seen a lot of that. A good thing, a lot of us did kind of catch on. Again, before we started recording, I believe, I spoke about how a few of us had properties that grandma lived in Brewery Town, but we called it North Philly. Now they call it Brewery Town. You just lived on 29th Street. Now they just made it sound like something, and they took all the old torn down factories, because Philly has a lot of factories throughout, and made those into condos and just beautified the space. So now if you want a shell in Brewery Town, at 150, 180, because once you fix it up, they're going for 360, and then they're adding 3 stories and 4 stories and rooftops out there, so you can see the city view and all of that stuff. So it's different pockets. There's a pocket out in Southwest that they're starting to gentrify now. So there's still some pockets in the city that just haven't been tapped as of yet. So
oh wow. Well, I mean, and there's across the nation, I hear a lot of our communities talking about gentrification and pushing back. So I'm hoping that more of us get on board with the real estate, because it is our tool for a wealth building. I mean, I don't know any other way where we can build wealth without having some pieces of real estate. So
yes,
I'm hoping some of us, get more of us get on board with the real estate.
But then you start talking that whole generational wealth piece too, right? For years before I got to the real estate gang, I was pushing it. Life insurance is an easy way to be able to pass down some money. Now, I still believe that, but when I had my own experience and was, I received the benefits of a life insurance policy in the mail, my dad's, I opened that envelope and saw that check, and I just got stuck. I dropped it, and it literally sat on the floor for about 4 or 5 months. I was like, let me check up and make sure it don't have no expiration date. So you need cash for 90, 120 days. And thank God it didn't. And I think they probably knew I wanted my dad. I didn't want that money. So I felt guilty even thinking about having a good time with this money. Now I'd have been paying into this policy for 10 years. But it took me a while. So I ended up, this is where my dad actually stayed in my basement. I redid the space, put new furniture down here, redid the bathroom, redid the laundry room, redid the little outside, planted a tree, sprinkled his ashes in there, did all of this stuff that I thought would make me feel good and feel better. It was like, oh yeah, no. But then I invested some of that money too. I bought me a piece of property.
Yeah, that's good. And not to cut you off, I mean, and a lot of us are taught, get you in life insurance, but nobody tells you how to parlay the policy once it's actually come to that place where you have it to use. So you get this windfall of money, but now what?
Now what? Now what do you do with it? Because you can either, and again, I got my little 3-piece. I tithe to God, I tithe to myself, I tithe to my business. Off rip, and then everything else I reinvest. So tithing to the business is that reinvestment opportunity.
Okay.
And then you have to have a nest egg. You just have to. You have to. I don't have any children, biological children. I got a plethora of godchildren, but that whole inherited wealth piece. I have 3 nieces. So I created LLCs in all of their names, and each of them, except for the baby, have a property in their name. So the next property that I buy will be my niece's. One, when I go on to be with the Lord, because I'm going to enjoy the properties and the fruits of the benefits of the properties while I'm living. But when I die, you get a seasoned LLC. By the time they can do something with it, it'll be 15, 18, 20 years old, and you get a piece of property. What you do with it, I don't know. I don't care at this juncture. I couldn't take it with me anyway. But that's my contribution to that whole inherited wealth, generational wealth piece. It'll be up to the parents and myself to educate them on investing in real estate and to expose them to all of these things as well. But for the sake of right now, I know my retirement plan at the college, the beneficiaries are my 2 nieces. I need to add my other niece on there as well. The life insurance policies, my mom and my brothers and sisters kind of get to split up. And they can just have, you can't take none of it with you. So it is what it is. Leverage it to enjoy, to live the better part of your life now. That's what I typically tell people. but then do something meaningful so that your life has meaning. It matters to people
Your
when you go on, and
purpose.
that you left at least something behind. And that the world know that you was here. It was being I was here. That song, that part.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
let me segue here because I see we can talk for about 3-4 hours here, and I want to make sure I
I
get.
told you I got a lot of stuff going on.
You got a lot. Well, let me get into one of the things that I really, 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 really enjoy hearing about what you're doing, and you're wearing the shirt that's fostering success. Now, I was on the website for this nonprofit that you have, and this beautiful video pops up right away of these two young gentlemen.
Mhm.
And I hear their story. They are the last of a crew of what, 12 that started out?
Well, I think the initial group that I pitched the idea to was about 20. Yep, it was 20, 15 they opted in, and then the numbers just kind of dwindled down.
Okay.
Backstory about where and the what. I created I designed this program, this youth diversion rites of passage experience. And then one of my fraternity brothers was working at Carson Valley, which was a residential facility for at-risk youth. And he was like, well, we could use some programming, innovative programming. So we had a meeting with the powers that be. And he was like, okay, we don't have no money. And I'm like, all right, I'll run the first pilot for free. $20,000 later, it was expensive. You just see a snapshot of the end result. It was a 3-tiered situation. Tier 3, they were professionally dressed 2 times a week. And then on the weekends, we were on campus. We went to the college. I had workshop presenters come in and give them workshops. We did all these types of cultural events. I took them to Broadway. We had these fine dining experiences. We went to museums. It was that early exposure piece that helped to kind of expand their mindsets. So people didn't see that component of the experience. The clothing that they needed each phase, helping to support them, feeding them. It was just it was a very expensive situation. And it was expensive to me because I'm like, oh, fostering success is Craig Smith. So Craig Smith is just swiping his debit card. So when I tried to claim it on my taxes, they was like, yeah, no, you were supposed to cut a check to foster success. And then you were supposed to pay for these things out of foster success account.
Learn.
I said, oh, this was an expensive lesson learned, God, Lord. I just wanted to do the good work. The money came back, whatever the case may be. But that's what we ended up doing. And
well, hello there.
That's Joshua. Joshua is hungry. And this is 5 o'clock. He's in there messing around with the bowl. He's like, I'm giving you these nonverbal cues that it's time for you to come up in here and feed me. So now I'm going to bark at you. I see you, Joshua. I'm coming, sir. My apologies.
We ain't got much longer. Hold on a second. I got 4-legged critters myself, so I understand.
I heard him in the bowl like, all right, it's empty. And that's when that bark is. I want your attention. I'm hungry. All right, my friend, I got you. But yeah, so that was the program and the learning, because people have asked, well, would you call it successful? Is only 2 people made it to the end. I said yes, because I learned a lot. One thing that I learned is that the way that the organization had their programs model set up, the guys had to earn the right to go home on the weekends. And when they it was a plethora of them that was connected with us early on. But once they got to that point within their program model and they earned the ability to go home, they went home on the weekends, and the bulk of the program took place on the weekends. So natural attrition caused pretty much half of them to fall out. The other half, a few other ones just kind of self-selected out because of their insecurities around them not being. Joshua, thank you, sir. Excuse me.
Your real son, your real kid there.
Yeah, he better go ahead somewhere. Like you're not starving, you just hungry. I promise y'all I fed him today. So the guys, and I think in the video you saw the guys were reciting something, and one guy was like, proper plan of piss.
Yes.
And we saw a lot of that because the guys who started early on with us stayed around. And one thing that they realized, because I told them I'm going to be committed to commitment and responsible for the responsibility to showing up. And I'm
Gotcha.
going to go with the goers. So if one of y'all show up, I'm gonna give you 110%, as if all 15 of y'all showed up. The
Gotcha.
other issue or challenge that I learned was that they had this thing called child lining. So the employees that worked there couldn't superimpose, they didn't feel comfortable making the guys do things that was positive, peaceful, and
Oh,
productive, because they
oh,
didn't want them to child line them, and now
okay.
they get sent home without pay for X amount of time.
Yeah, okay.
So they just didn't press the issue. If they had a bad day and didn't feel like going, or they wanted to go eat pizza instead of going down there with Dr. Craig, I had to go with the goers. So I ended up with 4 salads. And then 2 of the guys, one guy had traumatic brain injury. So his learning curve was a lot greater.
Yeah.
Um, they were in and out. They would show up, not show up, but then they showed up more so than not showing up. And the other 2 guys who you saw make it to the end, they were just committed. And they were the worst 2 guys on campus. And they hated each other and always fought. So when they took that knee and said that poem, "If You Are My Brother," that was the second alternative after me giving them boxing gloves. Because I'm tired of y'all fight. We're going to do it the honest way. I'm going to give y'all 2 minutes. And the
Whoa.
first point, I said, never mind. I did that, bro. Take a knee. And then y'all will learn this. And they learned that poem. And they actually became really good friends through the process.
Awesome.
But when we had those 2 that were inconsistent, I gave them the option. Do y'all want to go with you said go with the goers? They ain't going harder than we go. So
Okay.
no, they got to go. I was like, all right, y'all, the tribe has spoken, and we had to let those guys go. Some of the guys, time was up and they left. So proposal to the organization was, make this a residential. Give me 1 dormitory, and then let it be court mandated that a plethora, once we get 15, then they'll live here. They'll go through this program. You'll assign me 2 employees that I'll train on my curriculum to do when I'm not here, so that now we can hold them accountable to these things I call manhood tenets.
Gotcha.
Bottom line is production. You find a way, you make a way. Things are done in decency and in order with the spirit of excellence. Prior proper planning prevents. So it was like 20 manhood tenets that I taught these guys, and we modeled them, the behaviors, and we would just hold them accountable to living that. Until they just embodied it, and they did.
Okay.
And when them guys got to phase 3, because they were ELOTs, emerging leaders of tomorrow, griots, doing something light in the dark tunnel. I named like 3 phases. I haven't run a program in like 2 or 3 years, so I totally forgot what I designed, but they had different stage luminaries, which meant they were light and dark tunnels. So each of them kind of had like a little ceremony of sorts. Because again, I took my pledge process, kind of took out bits and pieces of it, and they worked. They had to work to earn their boots. So that first phase they did outside with no shoes on. So when y'all was exercising, and I have a video, if you scroll all the way down on my Facebook page, you'll find a video of the day that they earned their little boots from he really messing around in that bull. They earned their boots from Home Depot, Walmart, from Walmart.
Oh, wow.
They were so excited, you would thought they was Jays. I mean,
I work for these, man.
But man, look, another manhood tenant, a man that don't work, don't eat.
That's right.
So y'all work, y'all earned it, boom, put their boots on, and we took a lead. So and my dad helped me with the work. My brother Eric, who had just come home from prison after serving 13 years, he helped with the work.
Awesome.
A young man that actually was online pledging my fraternity many moons ago that didn't make it through the process, he saw what I was doing and he reached out. And I'm like, well, had you made it through, you wouldn't be learning this stuff for the second time 10, 15 years later. So that was always a point of contention with us. But, us 5 really did this meaningful work with these young men. And I think the takeaway, one is in the military, the smaller one is in the military. I got both of them. Yeah, you got all these kids now. I'm like, can you stop making all these kids, babies? But I believe he married the young lady. But I had them both in college. So they both ended up going to college right out. Wow. Learning college ain't for everybody. The bigger guy, I ended up sending him to Thaddeus Stevens, was able to get him connected because he was actually in foster care. The other young man wasn't in foster care, just had some interest in home life. Ended up sending him to Kutztown. So they both did about a year in college and then realized, yeah, this really is not
It's
for
not
me.
for me.
Came home and my prayer was, God, doing nothing is not an option. That was a manhood tenet. And my prayer, God, make them unsettled in nothingness. And they will always call like, Pop, Doc, what's the plan B? I know you got something for me. And I would connect them to something different and connect them with something different and connect them with something different. Now y'all grown. So now at this point, life got to be your teacher. I'll always be here and support you, but I can't be your bailout guy. And
That's
the
right.
bigger guy called me probably about a month ago. He moved somewhere and was like, "Oh, Dr. Craig, I'm in the city. I got a doctor's appointment and I don't have a place to stay and I don't want to leave and have to come back. And my next doctor's appointment is 8 days away." I said, "Well, where are you?" In Philly. I said, "What are the 7 P's?" Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. I'm so glad you remember him after all these years. And why you ain't gonna call me and inconvenience me at the last minute because you knew you had a doctor's appointment. You knew you had the one for today and the one 13 days from now. You should have got in contact with me so I could have been prepared for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're going, bottom line is production, you're gonna do what?
You're gonna find a way. Find a way
to make a way.
Find a way to make a way.
He did, because he ain't called me back.
Now I want to take a quick moment, Dr. Craig, because when I was watching that video, I said, this is oddly familiar to a fraternity that I'm well aware of, and you have mentioned it quite a few times. So if you could please shout out which fraternity that you are a member of.
Oh, I said that. This Black and Old Gold, baby. Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Fall 98, Ace Club, OB1.
And I say that because I have been doing the male perspective for at least 5 years now. And I want to say the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated have appeared on this shore more often than not. I don't know if it's just you guys are out in the world doing the most.
We're gentlemen and we're silent. I'm sitting here in this red and white. I know they're going to talk smack about this red and white. Red is actually my favorite color, but it is what it is. Each year for the nonprofit, I would do a different fundraiser. In this one particular year, I ran this Fostering Success, Educate, Mentor, Empower shirt, but I did it in all Greek colors. So I got blue and white, red and white, black and gold. I did pink and green. I actually got the pink and green hoodie right there. Pink and green hoodies. I did black and red. Iotis, I didn't do it. I couldn't pull myself to
brown and
doing a brown and gold. My apologies. Sorry, not sorry. But was able to really make. And shout out to the sophisticated ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. They ate those pink and green hoodies up.
Okay.
Yes, they did. Deltas, Devastating Divas of Delta Theta Sorority Incorporated. They did their thing as well. Find a Woman of Zeta Phi Beta. They did. I did a blue and white, but the SG Rose wanted royal blue and gold, and I didn't do an SG Rose shirt. But I may bring these back and put them out there. So but yeah.
Y'all are doing it. Y'all are doing it. Well, let me segue into, because I think I got time for just a little bit more here. Building on fostering success, you're now transitioning that into Alpha House, conveniently. Alpha House, transitional living home. So explain how that's coming along and what that's about.
So it's coming. The original thought and idea behind it, having worked for a plethora of different programs, youth development programs, one of the common things we always would see was that housing insecurity piece. And we would find ourselves in a position where we would lose students in program. It's like, man, I wish I had a house. I put all y'all in this house. I was saying this years ago, like, we need a house, we need a house, we need a house. Now I have the houses. The challenge right now with that particular demographic is that they're so lost. A lot of them are lost. And to take them on in a residential format, because I fostered, I had 5, sometimes I had a 6-month-old kid in here at one point. Dr. McQueen, I had so much fun. Now that's a whole different situation. Scroll all the way down my Instagram. You'll see me and the Good Doctor. We were the Good Doctors Network. That was Dr. McQueen. I'm not the good doctor. You are the good doctor. I spoke to that young man's life. And I just found my baby can read. 2 days ago, I was going through some stuff and I gave it to the woman down the street who has 2 foster care kids. I think one of the little girls is like 2. Like I found this, it worked. Nazik is very articulate and very smart. Take this and use it for this young lady, and she took it. But I'm still trying to figure out. I think I am going to run a smaller cohort of the 18 to 21 year old. This particular house that I'm in now, it did what it needed to do.
Okay.
Emotionally disconnected from it because my dad is no longer here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn this into probably that 18 to 21 or 24-year-old home. Have a few conversations coming up in the next subsequent weeks to see if I can get people to actually sponsor some young men.
Okay.
And they don't necessarily need to be in foster care. I would like for them to be connected to the foster care system because we can leverage all of those additional resources. But going back to those phone calls I would get, I got a young man, a friend of mine, Big Bentley Niche, had a young man that she had living with her, who was an amazing young man who was living in a car, 14. This person died, that person died, this person moved away and just literally left him alone on his own. And this young man is living in a car. So those type of situations, young people or a young man who is packed with promise, just need a good, stable situation. And that's what we're looking to do in this particular house. The 2 other homes that I have 2 7-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom homes out in Chester, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
There's a huge homeless veterans population out there. There's a prison right around the corner. I have a heart for juvenile lifers who, went into the prison system at 16, 17, 18, 19, and now they're coming out at 60 to a whole new world. They can appreciate and benefit comfortable, stable, and affordable housing in a communal type of setting because they've been in a communal type of setting for the last 40, 50, 60 years. So I'm still trying to figure out who my niche groups will be for these respective homes. But this particular house, my right now primary residence is the one that I'm really looking to convert into that 18 to 21 because I can really be involved in the process. The other houses, if those organizations that are sponsoring these men are interested in me doing financial literacy and kind of helping them with that rebuild and reconnect plans, then I can do that. So now I can double dip. I can serve as a landlord and as a subcontractor in the space. But my heart work is really working with that 18 to 21, 24-year-old who just need a good, stable situation and the right guidance, somebody to be the right example. So God is still working on my headpiece around how this looks and where I'm gonna move to and what I'm going to do and that stuff. So I know what I see, but I know what God sees. So I'm just going to hurry up and wait and let him do his thing. I went to church on Sunday. I needed a word, y'all. And I got the word, stop minding God's business. Let God do his business. And that's where I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm going to just do what you told me to do and let you do the rest. And phone calls have been made. People are making connections. This young lady that somebody connected me to was like, I was just on a drive and I met this gentleman and she, described this man. And I'm like, does he? She said he does. I said, I actually know him from the education sector. And he just became a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated recently. And we just were at a conference in Michigan where he was on a platform and we share the same mentor. I don't think that he knows me for this level of work that you're trying to connect us to because he just know me from the academic higher ed space. Let's have that conversation because he's the superintendent. He can get this financial literacy program in all of his schools and it will come with some funding. So again, that prayer, God, keep me in the minds of your people. She didn't have to think about me. I just met this lady. We had 2 or 3 conversations. We broke bread together and I made a meaningful enough impression on her that she thought about me when she met. She's like, I gotta connect to her. I don't know what kicked up of it. I said, we know each other. I said, I'm just gonna walk in the room and he's gonna say, oh man, I know this guy. He's from the hood, not of the hood. And his heart is to give back.
That's right.
He
Awesome.
needs somebody to help bridge that gap
Awesome.
because he can't do it. He's too polished and refined now. But
little
we
stuff,
can use
little
we
stuff
can
shirt.
that yeah we can leverage your resources though, good brother. And if I have to go, I can sit at the corporate table and have those conversations and conduct business, but then I can also go into the trenches and compel men and women to come and be received. And that changes the dynamic because when you're doing hard work and when you're working with young people, you got to pass their care test quick.
Oh yes. Oh
because otherwise
yes.
they're gonna shut you down.
Mm-hmm.
God gave it to me. So, and I'm fostering people's success. That's what we're doing.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Dr. Craig, I have overextended my time with you today, so my apologies for that.
No problem. I enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise, likewise. So I wrap up with a random question, and then I'm going to ask you to tell us how we connect with you and get on board and support you, purchase the book and all of that stuff. And if we, you do lending all across the United States?
I do.
Okay.
Yep, I do. And so a couple different things. C. Smith funding. I'm really in the process now of like truncating and merging my brands. So you got csmithfunding.com, you got Foster Success, b2m.org, you got streams, the number 2, success.com, you got hustlebackwards.com. I got all these different sites and landing pages. Let's just truncate the brand. So I'm working with somebody to truncate the brand so people can just find me in one space. You can definitely find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram under Fostering Success, B, the number 2, the letter M. C. Smith Funding does have the link tree capabilities to schedule a consultation.
Okay.
I do free consultations on funding, but if you just want to get in contact with me around this, that'd be the easier way. That way we can hop on a Zoom call. I also do successful stream strategy calls because I'm a program designer and a strategist, a power strategist. So I can listen to you in 10 minutes, come out with a whole game plan to position you to jumpstart your journey to financial freedom. So I've been conducting those successful stream strategy calls and just coaching people on how to get themselves positioned to monetize their passions. So, but you can get access to that off of csmithfunding.com.
And you said you were going to try to whittle everything down to one.
Just one page. The Dr. Craig Smith.
No. You said you were going to just whittle down all of your little ventures. That's what you said?
See, what had happened was I just wanted to work my one job.
That's a lie. Sound good. Let me see. Let me ask this question.
One job and that be that. Like, come on.
Sound good. You just talking out the side of your neck. Okay, here we go. What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore? What would you stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
Well, that's a good question.
Dog food. The dog is over there saying some dog food, huh?
He's sitting there looking at me like, sorry, Jasper. Because then I'm thinking back during COVID when the shelves were empty.
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper, paper towel. We ran out of toilet paper and paper towel were the main 2 things, and then water. Okay. You can live off of water. We had some issues with our water a few times as well, but we had water. My mom is a couponer, and she has her little stockpiles and things of that sort. And I'm like, Mom, you don't need all that laundry detergent because we don't have no water to do laundry. But you know what? We need water then, so it probably would be toilet paper. Some personal hygiene products. What else did we? It was mainly toilet paper. My blood pressure went high because we had a lot of non-perishables. We was just grabbing stuff off of the shelves. That was an interesting find because we were just grabbing cans because food was in scarcity. So I found myself eating more
stuff with preservatives and stuff.
Yes. Okay. But yeah, it would be toilet paper.
Okay. All righty. Well, sir, you've told us how we get in touch with you. Yes. I just want to say to you, from me, thank you for just the work that you are doing in the community, the servant that you are, opening people's eyes, showing them the pathway to multiple streams of income, especially in our community, rebuilding our young boys, because it's man, I cannot say it is just so needed. They need some mentors, they need some direction, they need some guidance because that's how strong communities are built. And I think people need to understand that. So, I mean, thank you from me to you in all that you are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. For whoever views this, let's connect. I'm in Philadelphia. I travel. I don't mind. I'm a conference presenter. I work in higher education. I run all of the student support programs, special admission programs in higher ed. My dissertation was too important to fail, assessing the role of a first-year experience program on the persistence of African-American males at predominantly white institutions. So I'm published. I'm publishing academia as well. So this is a whole game. So that's why I got to truncate this brand. Because this is about to just be
running your mouth. You just running.
And I'm only gonna do one thing though, just one thing. I just want to work in.
Running your mouth. You'll be sitting on the couch like this. Okay, I gotta do something.
I need to do something.
I gotta do something. I do something. But that's it.
But no, thank you so much. You be blessed.
All righty. That's all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time. Oh.